the biggest song of your career was a beat that you made in under 45 minutes?
The whole song was made under 45 minutes.
Jeez.
The
and
whole
song generated millions of dollars.
Yes. So I made the beat literally within like 10 minutes. So I was going to school in Alabama from like 99 to 2005. So I was kind of like a career student. I was going back and forth, and then we were recording a lot of guys who had substantial amount of money in Atlanta. And I used to visit a lot back then. You know, some weekends we used to be able to come up here and make $2,500, $3,000 a weekend, and it's to a college kid. That's
off of beats or off of tracking, all of that.
This was strictly off of beats.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, you would go in there sometimes with a 10 pack and they'll just be like, I just want to buy all 10 from you. So, you'll sell beats for like $250 and you'll sell a whole 10 pack. Or sometimes they'll just give you whatever cash they had. They'll just give you $3,000. And some of those guys were some of the big guys during that time. And it was chump change back then. Back then, it wasn't uncommon to sell a beat for $1,500 or $2,000 to somebody.
Well, let me jump right into these questions that I have. So you recently made a video about older producers. You made a couple videos about older producers. I made a reaction video to one of them. And my interpretation of the spirit of your video is that you were just simply telling older producers to not force younger clients to use production that they didn't actually want to use. Is that fair to say?
Yes, definitely.
Which I feel like is just a truism. Of course, you don't want to force anybody into doing anything that just as a general rule for life. But I know I got a backlash for that video. And did you get any backlash or any pushback from older producers?
I didn't get, I got a few. It's all, this is YouTube. Everybody's going to say something. The thing about it is, it's just true. It's true. Like if you look at what's going on in the landscape of even doing it from 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, older producers tend, when they get older, they kind of get stuck in their ways. And then they feel that these type of beats and songs are what's going to revive music. And we all know that that's not going to happen because we've all been young at one point and we've all met that one old producer who kind of made it or didn't make it. That's saying, well, you need to go back to this. So, I know guys who still rap like it's 87. So, at the end of the day, they're telling me like, yo, I got this song, bro. It's going to take off. And they're rapping me a hook that sounds like Kool Moe Dee rapped it.
I have an interesting view of production. I feel like the producer's job is to meet the artist halfway and make the best possible song. And sometimes you're not meeting the artist halfway. Sometimes you're doing 90% of it. Sometimes you're doing 10% of it. But it's just what the job requires because you love the process. And I feel like a lot of people don't love the process as much as they love having control of the end result.
Correct. You got to think my biggest song ever was with, at the time,
Kid. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, a young kid. And what I learned over the years was even when people were paying me for production, I had to know who this person was first. When I'm going to the studio with somebody and they commission me to make a track, I got to meet their expectations more, and a lot of times than to meet mine, but I have to sprinkle what I know. They came to me for a reason. And so I think that's what some people fail to realize is you're still essentially working for somebody else while you're in that studio. And then they're coming to you for your expertise. So that's what basically sums it up. What some people don't understand, you just can't force yourself onto somebody like that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think a lot of people feel like there's something wrong with that. And there are producers like Premier. They're working with younger artists. He's dropping songs with Russ, but that makes sense for that artist.
Yeah.
There's an audience for that, a big audience. It's like when I DJ, I'll do a graduation party for a high schooler. Yeah, I'm going to play what they want to hear. I'm not going to sit there and be like, nah, you need to hear Mary J. Blige for that. And I will play some because I feel like, ironically, given all this criticism that the younger generation is getting because of streaming, because of legacy catalogs, and now everyone has free access to them, and because of TikTok reviving old records, you're seeing a lot more open-mindedness. So I can get away with playing so-called jams for younger kids, but I'm essentially there to, like, I'm not going to do an R&B night and play Von Off 1700 for everybody and think, oh, I'm doing a great job, I'm killing it, because this is what they want to hear. Or like going to a hip hop show and playing EDM just because that's what I want them to listen to. That just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. I'm going to lose my job doing that. So you started making beats around 2000, which was kind of the transition point for digital audio workstations becoming now the norm. Yeah. Whereas before it was hardware. There was that era where a lot of older producers were very critical of the DAW user.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I remember coming to a session one time. I was in Atlanta, and they still were recording. Some sessions were still being recorded on tape. Well, actually not tape. It was ADAT. They had a tape machine in there, but most of the stuff was on ADAT. And they had a few rooms in here. I cannot remember that studio name. It's skipping my mind. But me and my homeboy was in there, and he was making beats on MPC. I can't remember which one it was. And I had a laptop, and I had Reason. I want to say Reason. It couldn't have been 2 yet. Maybe 1.5 or something like that. They booked up the studio that day for us to make a whole bunch of beats. And, of course, back then you had to track everything out, and it took pretty much almost a whole day to track stuff out. Well, I knocked all my beats out in like 2 hours. I was done. And I was sitting there, and the dude was like, hey, don't you got to track everything out? I'm like, I got it tracked out. I'm finna give you this CD right here. Everything's tracked out. And they did have a computer in there, so, we tracked it out. And he was like, so you need to tell me you can make all the beats and you just put it on the CD and it's tracked out? Like, yeah, the whole song is done. Everything's tracked out. It was 4 beats tracked out. I'm done. But then the engineer walks in, and the first thing he says is, well, I don't know. It just doesn't sound right to me, and this, that, whatever, which Reason back then was a little thin. He was just giving me this whole lecture of how computers are going to destroy the music industry. And the same way he gave me a whole lecture, like the same way the record destroyed the industry, because now people could put their stuff on a record. It destroyed the whole touring industry and all this stuff like that. And my thing was, at the time, I was like, I'm just a kid, man. I'm just over here trying to make beats. And you see everybody out here making money. I'm trying to do the same thing, and it was a few times where people did get critical about the situation. But once they learned that, this thing is here to stay, then it was kind of like, okay, I seen the shift to where everybody was embracing it more, especially when the Digio ones came out. Not the Digio 2, the first Digio one came out. And that's why I kind of seen the shift with everything, like kind of, okay, this thing is kind of here to stay, but we need to just kind of try to do like a hybrid situation with it back then.
Yeah. And then, funny enough, now young producers are throwing a bunch of tape saturation plugins on their FL mix bus. That's another conversation entirely.
Yeah. They and really, I'm I know it's a whole conversation, but I actually try to use those tape saturations the way you would actually slam something on the tape, and it's not. It's there, but it's not there yet. In a sense, you have to do it a digital way rather than doing it the way you would probably do it the way it would be with it would tape. That's why I kind of slam my pre's a little bit when I use my instruments.
Yeah, I mean, I just bought a reel to reel, so because I know it's not the same, but I didn't come up using them either. I mean, I use tape. I think there's a wide world of options, and as closely as people can get to the old sound, they're probably incorporating hardware into their workflow.
Yeah.
So in your 20s, this is from another video that I watched. You were making beats and recording clients mostly one-on-one, I believe.
Yeah.
And you're a big advocate for producers to become engineers. What would you say are the benefits, the main benefits, and also the main drawbacks to being a producer who engineers?
The main benefit is you can and it's kind of like a catch-22 with this. The main benefit is if you know how to control the situation in the environment, it will be super beneficial for you, because now you will learn to not only make beats, but now you can not just get paid for producing, but being paid as an engineer. Like I said in the video, that's what my job was. Okay. Like I was telling people in the video, you have to have, if you don't have the bread, you have to have some type of income. and engineering was, to be honest, my income. And during that time, I was making 25 up to $3,000 a month doing that. On top of pursuing my dreams of being this big time producer, that's what carried me over, even through the good and the bad times. So that was one thing. Another thing is it got me into studios, and it got me with other engineers. I still remember this day like yesterday. I was in the studio with Leslie Brathwaite. He came over to the studio I was working with. I was working with a guy named Kevin Shakespeare Briggs, and he came to the studio to mix a song for a girl named Netta Brielle. At the time, Leslie was using UAD plugins. This was like 2013, 2014. And I got to sit there during that whole session and see him actually mix for 2 days on that. It didn't take him long to mix at all. It was just the setup was a little time consuming, but I got to go in that studio. I got to go in the Patchworks. I got to meet so many other different producers, and I got to learn their styles. I got to learn different things just by even sometimes engineering for, I got to engineer for Bangladesh. I went to the studio. Some days he'll call me. He'll be like, hey, I got some beats. I got some songs. You mind just putting like a quick mix on them? And so I could send them on. I'd be like, yeah, I'll come through. And I wouldn't even charge them. It was just something that I wanted to just get around these producers and really kind of soak up their knowledge and stuff like that, and seeing, okay, this is how this person likes their basis processes. This is how this person likes their mixes. This person likes their snares a little lower. This person likes their snares a little higher. So it benefited me as a producer to see all of this and gain that knowledge. And of course, make some, money on the side. And then on the flip side of that, recording the artists, I recorded so many different types of artists in so many different places. I learned how to record hip hop. I learned how to record R&B, and it helped me out with my tonal, with my ear. So I know how, if an R&B singer, I remember I was recording one of the girls from Diddy's group, but her and
Aubrey.
Not Aubrey. No, not Aubrey. Her sister is Chanel, that was signed with Young Money.
Okay,
and I recorded her too.
Know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it was her. She used to come by and record a lot. And then just hearing how certain, how vocals sit in a certain tonal range. I learned how to know if somebody's on pitch, who is not on pitch, listening to certain beats, knowing if the 808 is in key, which that's a huge problem with producers, knowing if the 808 or certain sounds are in key. So all of that stuff helped me out to get to that. It helped me out to get to that point to where I can make the best tracks that I can make for that particular artist.
I mean, watching one of Leslie Brathwaite's YouTube videos changed my life forever. So I can't imagine working with him in person. You made a video that was titled, I made more money in my 40s than I did in my 20s. And I think that it was something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
And I was reading that title thinking, oh, but he conveniently left out his 30s because you produced some hits in your 30s. True to form, you produced hits from mostly younger artists like Taylor Girls and Silento, of course. Was Silento an artist you had a long-standing relationship with, or was it more of like an industry arrangement?
Every single last one of my placements came from people who were unknown, and they were just regular people who came to the studio. From Two Pistols, I was introduced by him in Florida, and then we ended up doing a record with him and T-Pain. And then he ended up signing with the Justice League, and they ended up remaking the beat over. And then, and they, that was their situation. But even with him, even with the guys who wrote on the Blame It record, they were just guys from San Antonio, Texas that were in a group. And two of them were R&B guys, and got them in the studio, got them in the situation. They ended up writing on that record. And then with Silento, he was actually introduced to me by a friend who used to just bring talent to the studio. And he was in a group at the time. The one kid that was in the group with him was a very smart kid. So he was going to this real demanding school. So he really couldn't come to the studio like that. And I call him Rick. I don't call him Silento. Rick used to, he was a young kid who was in Atlanta, catch the train, come to the studio. Me and him just started rocking out maybe about, I'd say probably like 5 or 6 months before we actually made the record. So we was he'll come by, pay for some studio time. And after a while, the studio I was at, because my studio was having some AC problems, the studio I was at, he was like, yo, could you do us a favor by jumping on this other kid's little record, and we'll let you get some free time or whatever, and blessed him with that. And the next, a few months later, we ended up making a hit record.
what was the escalation there? Because, you know, from the outside looking in, like I'm in the business, so I know this is a lie, but a lot of people from the outside looking in always have that narrative that this is an industry plant if they aren't seeing the person rise. But it's like you don't see it until it's big, 9 out of 10 times. Yeah. So what was that escalation like with that record? Because that's a 6-time platinum hit song. It's at well over 400 million streams just on the Spotify platform alone. So this is not a small song by any means.
Well, actually, it's actually a diamond record. They just haven't certified it.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's
yeah. So yeah, it's probably a diamond plus, but Capitol for some reason hasn't certified it yet.
Yeah, like, they don't pay that $450 to the RIAA, I guess.
So I've already talked to people. Even the people over there already know it's a diamond record. They just haven't got it certified. But going back to what you were saying, it all happened so fast from the point of us making the track. From everything about that track happened uberly fast. Even the night we were in the studio, the only reason why that track got made is because I had to hurry up and get home because I had just had twins that September. We were in the studio December 17th of 2014. We were working on a song and I was trying to get him to write some verses to this one song we had. And he was like, man, I don't want to do this song. I want to do the song I've been telling you about. And I was like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself like, oh man, here he go with this song again. The song idea sounds crazy. You know, me being an older person sounds crazy. But I was like, all right, cool. Look, we got 45 minutes. Let's just go ahead and get it done. Do you got the beat? He's like, nah, I need you to make the beat for it. And I'm like, all right, cool. At the time I was working on Logic, I literally threw that beat together. But
so I just want to make this clear. The biggest song of your career was a beat that you made in under 45 minutes?
The whole song was made under 45 minutes.
Jeez.
The whole
song generated millions of dollars.
Yes, the whole song was made under 45 minutes. It was made. Now, I did do some stuff after that, but pretty much 90% of everything was done in 45 minutes. And then the crazy part about that day was the studio we was at, for some reason, everything broke. The 737, one of the fuses went out, so it had some static in it. And then we had a 11, not 11, I think it was Universal Audio. It was like 1176 or something like that. But then we didn't have the 48 volts to go into the compressor. So and then one of the mics went out, but we had an old U87 mic in there. So we just ran a U87 directly into an Mbox 3. So we did that. And then I made the beat. And then the crazy part about it was the chorus was actually backwards. He was saying, watch me nay, watch me whip first. And I was like, nah, you need to switch it around. I think it'll sound better. And I think you need to kind of like sing it a little bit to the beat, because I threw the beat together. But that's why I tell people you got to take jump shots in the studio all the time. I make beats every day for times like that. So you got to take your jump shots every day. So when you're in these situations, when the time arrives for you to put on your cape and to be Superman, you got to do that. So I made the beat literally within like 10 minutes, and I just tracked out those 8 bars or whatever, put them in Pro Tools, and then from there we recorded everything. Once we got the hook done, I was kind of like, oh snap! I said, this kid might have a hit. You know, it sounds really good. We tried to get him to rap the verses, but he wasn't really a rapper at the time. So I just kind of cut it, and I was like, listen, let's just make this song what it is, okay? Let's just make this a dance record. I said, you need to just put some dance stuff in here. It needs to sound like one long hook, and then I'll place everything where it needs to go. The kid said, you know, the best line ever, you know, to start off the song, and that's do the stanky leg. And, you know, because it kind of just catches your attention from that point, even though it's the cheesiest stuff, but it worked. And then he put it down. I had him do 2 tracks of ad-libs. I bounced down a copy for him, and then I took it home. And then I had an MPC 2500. I took those tracks and ran those back into the 2500 to beef them up. And I took those stems, put those back into Pro Tools, and I took all his stuff and I just cut everything up. So all the OKs and everything, I got all that cut up. And one day I'm actually going to do a video where I show like the process of what I did, because I still got the original session and everything. But yeah, recording everything from start to finish took 45 minutes, and me just like putting my little final touch to it, because I didn't even mix it. I had all the vocals going through one aux track, and I used all Waves plugins his vocals, since I didn't have no compressor or anything like that, I ran his vocals through an R comp and through an SSL on an aux channel, and I ran that directly through. And then,
I was taught by that Leslie Breathwaite video that's what you should do.
Yeah, if you don't have anything to do, like you could just run it through that, and then like if people really know, if you know how to use the R comp, you can make it sound like a LA2A in a sense, if you know how to push it the right way. So I just used just like a little kiss of compression going in because I didn't have any type of preamp or nothing going in. Ran it through the SSL, didn't make any changes to that. Just wanted to get the sound of it. And then I ran all the vocals through one aux track. It was an SSL. It was a R compressor, an SSL, and a de-esser. And that's it. And had a reverb and a delay on there. And that's it.
That's
and an L2.
Because you described, so this is a diamond hit, and essentially you used the setup that a lot of producers have in their houses, because you went directly from the UA 87 into the interface, and then everything else was VST plugins.
That's it. That's it. That actual version is still on iTunes to this day. That's the one that you hear on Spotify and everything. That version that I did that night is the one that they have on all the DSPs. We got Jason Joshua to mix the final version of it, which did all the radio, all the movies, TV stuff you hear in arenas and stuff like that. That's his mix, but in the radio mix you heard. But the one that you hear on the DSPs is my mix.
But you still tracked everything, so he may have mixed it, but it was still the original vocals.
Yeah. No, everything is the original vocals, the original session went to him. Yeah, and he enhanced it, like he brought out the kick and everything. I don't know what he did, but he did some crazy stuff to it. In the throws, he did some throws and stuff in there. It was crazy.